Jim Driscoll, pastor of Christ Lutheran Church, with the NCTV45 Thought for the Day. We are in a book edited by Carla Barnhill. The name of the book is called A Year with Dietrich Bonhoeffer. I said that I would expand a little on Bonhoeffer. He was a very interesting man. He was German, but he was also he lived in America. He received his education in America. He pastored churches in America. And at the beginning of the Second World War, in that time frame, 1930s, Bonhoeffer decided to return to Germany. And he was very aware of what was going on in Germany with Hitler, that Hitler wasn't very accepting of Christianity. For those who try to say that Hitler was Christian, that's pure ignorant nonsense. It's very clear. For those who are students of history, and I get it, most people who run their mouth are not students of history, but the Nazi regime in Germany was not Christian, and they expected Christian pastors to toe the line, to talk the party line, and if they didn't, they'd be on a train to a concentration camp. Interestingly, Bonhoeffer became part of a conspiracy to assassinate Hitler. If you read about Bonhoeffer, you'll see that was very much out of character for him. He was much closer to being a pacifist than he was doing anything of that kind to eliminate a national leader. But he came to the realization that Hitler was just a danger, and the sooner that Hitler was moved off the stage, the sooner that peace would be restored to Europe. And Europe had already been devastated, and unfortunately, Bonhoeffer was arrested, and he spent time in concentration camps, and then ultimately he was hung, and that was just a few weeks before Allied forces, American forces, eliminated or liberated the various concentration camps. So, a tragic story, but Bonhoeffer did leave us a lot of very interesting material. I'm going to go to page 12. Again, it's A Year with Dietrich Bonhoeffer, edited by Carla Barnhill. And Bonhoeffer writes, just as our love for God begins with listening to God's word, the beginning of love for other Christians is learning to listen to them. God's love for us is shown by the fact that God not only gives us God's word, but also lends us God's ear. We do God's work for our brothers and sisters when we learn to listen to them. And, you know, that's something that has gotten back on the stage again. And rather unfortunately, it's one of those things, you know, on those AOL things, the things that have the kind of the news blips on there. And 12 ways to show how much you love your spouse, that kind of thing. Listening to her or him is one of the top ones. Empathy, showing that you're listening to them, hearing what they're saying. That's what it's called, active listening. And this is something that Bonhoeffer's discussing about 80 years ago, that we're just kind of coming back in vogue. So often Christians, especially preachers, think that their only service is always to have to offer something when they are together with other people. Well, no, that's not true. I mean, if somebody asks me my advice, if somebody's looking for directions, yeah, absolutely. But boy, I'll tell you what, more often than not, people really desperate for someone to listen to them, to be heard. And I know other pastors who've had the same experience, have left talking with someone, um, hearing somebody, doing a visitation, and they'll say, "Oh, thanks, Pastor. That was so great. I got so much out of that." And you hardly said a word. And it was mostly because they got a chance to actually be heard. Anyways, they forget, that is, pastors forget, that listening can be a greater service than speaking. Many people seek a sympathetic ear and do not find it among Christians, because these Christians are talking even when they should be listening. But Christians who can no longer listen to one another will soon no longer be listening to God either. They will always be talking even in the presence of God. Death of the spiritual life starts here, and in the end, there is nothing left but empty spiritual chatter and clerical condescension, which chokes on pious words. Those who cannot listen long and patiently will always be talking past others, and finally no longer will even notice it. And those who think their time is too precious to spend listening will never really have time for God and others, but only for themselves and for their own words and plans. Boy, I'll tell you something. This is something that I've really has really kind of come home to me, because I'm kind of at the end of so many of these condescending, patronizing, these pastors of the past who just sort of lifted up platitudes instead of genuine truth and genuinely telling people what needs to be dealt with. And when you find that the church has been shrinking for so long, well, nobody takes it seriously. Why? Because we've had too many pastors who've lived in their little ivory tower and just pass on platitudes instead of listening, and instead of really understanding, and just basically say, well, I just want to deal with this, move on. And they do the whole pious, oh, I'm so, that kind of nonsense. But then they really don't do anything. And you also have the happy clappy pastor who just tells you what you want to hear, and everything's great and everything. You got a bunch of phonies in the ministry, and you have to find some genuine people. The church is desperate for genuine clergy, genuine leadership. It really is. And now that I've ticked off a whole bunch of people, so be it, but that's the way I'm going to be. I'm Jim Driscoll, pastor of Christ Lutheran Church, with the NCTV 45 thought for the day. Christ Lutheran Church is located at 1302 East Washington Street. Nobody takes it seriously. Why? Because we've had too many pastors actually be heard.